Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Outta Savannah. I am super excited to be here. My guest, David Kahn, is here, and he is going to tell you exactly who he is and how he can help you. So, David, take it away.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I tend to refer to myself as a groovy futurist that has a really big positive vision for where we're heading as a species. And I
Yes.
can feel it sometimes, despite all the challenges in the world, and especially now where people are mad about everything and it triggered left, right, and center, you know, there's never been a better time to say, wow, I'm this close to an amazing future if I can change my perception and change the way that I'm viewing things and start to align myself with where I want to go and not get caught up in the distractions and the resistance.
That is powerful and that's perfect because that is really, we need that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you, I'm telling you, I had to do a social media fast. I had to just shut all of that stuff off and just be because it's just so much. You got polarizing over here and polarizing over here, and everybody's pissed off and everybody's mad. And, if this group is mad because that group, succeeded, and this group is mad because these group of people, I mean, it's just crazy. And I just was like, if I don't shut this off, I just shut it off. I turned on some nice jazz and
Mm.
I put on, just decompress, got my journal out and just started
Mm.
writing and, started doing, I actually started another book, and I was like, I got to decompress from this because this stuff is just too much, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that you are even addressing that. So let's get started in finding out how you got on this path because I always say that most of us were born on the path, we just didn't know it.
I was definitely born on the path and at a pretty young age got exposed to the path. So I grew up in a household. My father was a nuclear physicist,
Oh, wow.
very scientific, and he came from India and he came from a very poor background. But what he learned in his travels was he learned the mystical science behind all of our science. So the triangle, Pythagoras' triangle they use in math, they teach you in school. Well, he had a story that went with it that was very mystical, and Pythagoras was a very mystical individual.
Yeah.
We don't know this. He told me about Isaac Newton, and Isaac Newton was a deeply spiritual man. So I
Yes.
grew up with this integration of science and spirituality from my father. Now, he wasn't very open-minded to a lot of energy and that type of thing, but my mom was. My aunt was actually a spiritual healer. So I kind of grew up
Nice.
in a household that was actually allowed me to explore these things. Now, I didn't really do that until my teens, and I got into Christianity. And so I went to church, and I quickly found that I felt limited. So by the time I was 18, I said, you know what, Christianity is not for me. I am looking for a higher power out there, but I'm not finding it at church. And
Yes.
then I had a friend that came, basically, he'd been a hippie living in the woods in Vancouver Island, Canada, where I live now, but I was living somewhere else. I was living in the city. And he came and he's like, I was living in the forest and, you know, eating psilocybin mushrooms and communing with the gods.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm like, what is this? And he told me about all these things like qigong and energy healing. And I was 19.
Yes.
And so that opened me up at 19 to this whole world of spirituality. So I've been on this journey for 22 years now. And spending 22 years on a journey, especially getting into it in my late teens, it's been nice because it's grown with me. It's matured along with me. And
Yes.
I feel that the fruit of maturation is how relaxed I feel towards it.
Yes.
That's the beauty because a lot of these kids nowadays who are very talented, they have abilities, they
Yeah.
come in like this. They're
Yes.
like, I've got a holy mission and I'm the only one that can do it.
Yes.
And it's a tightness, right? And then at the end of the day, you see a lot of stuff. You go through 5 dark nights of the soul and emerge the other end, and it's like, you know what? We're gonna be fine.
Yes. That is the part.
That's
That
the
that
part.
really is the part. It's like,
Uh-huh.
actually was talking about that yesterday. I did a YouTube and I was on TikTok and YouTube at the same time. And I
Yeah.
did that and I talked about one of the dark nights of the soul that I went through. And I was like, I didn't think I was going to make it. It was such a struggle at the time. I said, but looking back, I realized that I had to do that.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a necessity. It really wasn't optional. It was like I had to do that. And the way God sent me to do it was just profound. And so I was like, all right, so I understand now. And do you get that every time you go through some dark night like that? Do you get that it is an opportunity to open up to more?
The ideal answer I'll give you, and I say ideal because this is not the way I've gone through my dark nights of the soul. The ideal way is to realize the only path is through.
Yes,
So you go through the thing. We have this expression, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. That
yes,
light is some new layer of integration inside yourself. It's meeting a part of you that is connected with God.
yes.
But there's two other pathways. There's the pathway of resisting it
Hmm.
and contracting. And then there's the part of lashing out and blaming other people and projecting it outward onto the world,
Yes,
right? So when dark nights of the soul start, ideally we just go through the thing and we feel through, we have the experience. We're still, we might behave differently and tell people we can't come out for the, backyard barbecue today because we're processing, but we're not taking it out on other people.
right.
Not making it their problem, and we're not over processing and stuck in loops
Yes,
with it. And
yeah,
so that's the basis of what I said. We all going to go through these. We're living in the 21st century. We've got a mountain of unresolved collective BS. We've
yes,
treated people in this world very poorly as a species. We
yes,
have treated the environment like it's something we just disregard like
yes,
garbage.
yes,
We've dislocated ourselves from the higher dimensions as a species. We're
yes,
putting poison into our body at every turn. Like we have some real big issues to face. We
yes.
can't coat this with light and love,
No,
right? We can be positive, yes, but we have to accept that there's going to be some challenge in removing the parts of that mechanism that are embedded into us.
yes,
There's parts of the system that have made their way into our genetics and have conditioned us to the point where, we don't even realize it. We think it's normal,
yes,
right? And so as we go through this process of unwinding, of healing, of reclaiming our mind space, becoming liberated in our being again, and retaining this and our humanness, um, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road. And so what I discovered was that I actually created a new astrological system that bridges astrology and human design
ooh,
with frequency mechanics. And the most important part is it uses the stars and planets as they are in the sky. This
okay,
is the big thing about astrology is when you look at the sky and you pull it out of your app to see what constellation and planets are there, it's different than what your chart says.
right,
So
right,
there's a disconnect. There's a whole rabbit hole around this disconnect. I won't get into now. It's on my YouTube channel if people want to talk about it, if they
yes,
want to learn about it. But when you start to realize that there's another version of you that isn't under the distortion that typical astrology creates, typical astrology is pretty good, but it won't get you to that place of your essential self, of your higher self. And when you find that version of you, that blueprint, and start attuning to that and its potential, all of a sudden, you now have a very clear pathway to keep you on that tunnel to get to the light at the other end. So it
mm,
makes those dark nights of the soul not only manageable, but you're able to pass through them easier. The
yeah,
other way I do it too is I actually help people run energy through their higher bodies to
yes,
help flush out the trauma that's stored karmically, ancestrally, in their minds, in their emotional bodies. And so that, we don't have to do years and years of therapy. We can just get it done
yes,
pretty quickly. And you
yes,
learn to run the energy, you start to embody your multidimensional self, and you become that version of you. When we say the best version of ourselves, it's
yeah,
there, but we have to be specific about what that is. And that's for us. That's our standard. We compete with ourselves to get there. We don't compete with other people to get there. That's not very nice.
no, it's not very helpful either.
No, it's not very helpful.
That is such a powerful thing because the thing is I always wondered and I always thought that it should be a way to combine that,
Yeah.
because I mean, don't you use similar charts for both, right?
It's similar, but when people see, they look similar, but then all the planets are different or the placements are different. They look at this new one. I gotta tell you, I've run 1,200 um, of one type of test. I've done 300 of another, and I've actually sat down with people in workshops worth about 200 people. 98% of people have said this new version of them feels better.
Yeah.
And 2% said they're not sure yet.
Right.
So the people that are attracted to me and what I have to say have at least really resonated with this new way of doing things that feel it's more representative of who they are in their hearts. A
Yeah.
lot of the time, what they say is that they've worked with astrology for a long time, but they feel like the tropical version or the usual version, it only gets them to a certain point in their progression.
Right. So you work with the Sidereal version or
That's correct. Yes.
yes. I actually had a little reading with that on TikTok. That was my introduction to that.
Ah.
There's a young lady that does it on TikTok, and she actually, I was in her room and she asked me, did I want to get a reading? And so she gave me one, and it was quite interesting. And it was because I'm uh my sun in traditional astrology is Scorpio,
Hmm.
and my moon is Pisces, and my rising is Leo. So she was telling me that in according to the sidereal, I think that my sun would be in Libra. And so I was like, oh, all right. That was kind of
I
interesting.
see that. I feel that Libra energy with you
Yeah.
because there's this air of like diplomacy and like really like coming together and finding balance and harmony in a conversation
Yeah.
that's really feels good to interact with.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love that you
Yeah,
said that. Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. But that showed me something because I was like, because I'm not okay, so my story is I was raised deep, deep religion, like Pentecostal. In the South, they call it holiness, really lots of dogma and lots of, I call it manipulation and brainwashing, lots of
Hmm.
that. And so I
Can I
had,
just interrupt though? But
sure,
is Pentecostal the one where they speak in tongues as well?
yes,
Ah, okay. So they actually are running these energies in their body. They just don't know
yes,
what they are, right?
that's it. And that's why when I use it, people say, "Oh, you know light language." I said, "Yes, since I was 5 years old." Because I was
Uh-huh.
in the church.
The OG light language.
Yeah, I was like, they're like, "Oh my God, your light language." I'm like, "Yeah," because I've spoken it now for shit 50 years, and so
Yeah.
but yeah, it caused me a lot of times because all that stuff, these things that we talk about, this was all the devil. And so,
Mm.
even doing a lot of work and everything, even behind it, it took me years to even be able to understand a little bit about astrology. Tarot was definitely, out because that definitely was the devil,
Oh yeah.
so
It's a
these,
devil card.
yeah, right. So I was like, all right. But as I started, coming out of the closet and realizing, and also that, I had these gifts that I needed to use, that God was like kind of pulling me and pushing me, actually, kind of, I felt like a bird getting kicked out of the nest. Yeah. But yeah, so talk to me about how you integrated this into your real life.
Well, I was going through a dark night of the soul. And I should have known better. This is only 2 years ago. Man, I've been on a path. I was humbled 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I had worked as an astrologer for a number of years. I was very successful, and I was doing these energy work as well. So I would use astrology as a way to diagnose what's going on in a person's soul,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
then use the energy corrections to know, okay, these are what we need to do. So it's
Oh,
kind of cool. Like, you go to the hospital, you get a scan done for your
yeah.
physical body. Well, it's kind
Yes.
of like that, but now you're getting that for your soul. So it's like, oh, cool. But I was using the tropical astrology, and I found I got to a certain point where I'm like, it's just not, I'm hitting a wall. It's not working.
Right.
So I actually took a break from that. My partner had our daughter, and we just took 4 months to kind of incubate as a family and be with my daughter. And then I said, what do I want to do now? And I want to. So I started this show, the Octave Leap podcast. And I was podcasting for a while, and then I got into somehow I was doing digital marketing for big spiritual brands. Like I was working for a wellness center. I worked for an NFL player who turned retreat leader, and it was
Wow.
fun. Yeah, it was wild because I'm a pretty good writer, so people like hiring me to write for them.
I I can see that. I seen that in your post.
Yeah, you see, that's yeah. Obviously, you found me through my writing.
I did.
So, yeah. So anyway, I was writing for them, and it got really busy because you're now meeting clients, and it felt kind of a little bit like the corporate world again. So here I had gone out into astrology, but I couldn't do it anymore because the system wasn't working. I burned myself out, needless to say. I ended up in a motorcycle accident, so I had a bike crash. I was injured. I had to get emergency surgery. No money. My relationship was in a mess. And a last ditch effort, I met with a friend, and the friend pulls out his laptop and he says, Dave, you showed me astrology 3 years ago, and I want to show you what I found because I've actually refined it. And I'm like, what? And so he shows me this true sidereal version. And he says, he's very intuitive too. He says, look at this position and now go and read the human design gate that's related to it. And it was Chiron, the wounded healer. And my jaw dropped because like the literal description in Gene Keys or human design was exactly what I was going through. And then my brain knew how to combine these systems. So then I looked back at my astrology chart and I got a little bit more specific information about it. And I went like my brain expanded. I got this huge download of exactly what I needed to do. And then over the coming weeks, I was in one of these like minor sort of like samadhi states. So I was in a very elevated state.
Yeah.
And I just kept getting downloads of what to do and how to assemble the system. And then I basically just went on my YouTube channel and said, guys, I'm back. I'm doing astrology again. This is crazy. Let me explain to you this whole sidereal revolution that I've had inside.
Yeah.
And as crazy it is I'm going to be doing, I'll do free readings for you or donation-based readings for you. And so people were very curious because when I get excited about things, people tend to be like, oh, what's he talking about? You know,
I could see that.
yeah, I have that. I do know I have this sort of charisma that goes with it, this artfulness that happens. So I can kind of get the energy going. So I got about 50 or 60 people who got these reports, and then they started reporting back. They're donation based. So I said, I'm experimenting with this. It's not written in stone yet. Try it out. But they loved it. And people were hot on this. And I said, wow, how can I get this out to a larger thing? So I actually created a free reading on my website, and I've sent you the link to that, where people can reveal and heal their own core wound. So they
Nice.
can start this journey and they can start to get the part of the world outside, the external world that they can't seem to figure out, the thing they keep running into resistance for, the thing that people usually don't heal until they're in their 50s and they have their Chiron return in life. That thing, you can have it illuminated in great detail with the push of a button. You just enter in your birth information. That's my gift that I'm paying forward for the whole thing. And then I give a free 3-day program. So the whole thing's free. And the way I did it is sort of like, I want people to have the same realizations. Now, the cool thing is, I get to have a lot of conversations with people because this calculator, this little free reading calculator, it gives people a lot to consider and to contemplate. It doesn't tell them how to live their lives, but it highlights an area that may have been something they couldn't articulate for a long time. And now
Yes.
they have clarity. And
Mm.
that clarity then is shifted with the energy work and they can begin to heal it themselves. So I get a lot of very touching emails from people, and it really feels like I've landed in something that I can now help in a larger capacity, and it doesn't involve my time to sit down with each individual 1,200 people, which would not be feasible.
I was gonna say that's like a dream
Yeah,
for a healer because
yeah,
we want to heal. I would love to heal the planet. You know what I mean? But I can't do that one person at a time. And
no,
neither do I have energy for that, and neither do I desire to do it. But but just being able to touch lives like that has to feel phenomenal.
yeah.
And
Um, so I've kind of turned the head because I've found my own style with this whole being online, and I am working in the healing space, and at the same time, I have a sort of a mandate for the collective. Right? So how do you balance both, right? Because one is I need to get money to live. I don't want to get work another job that just isn't going to work.
right.
And at the same time, I don't want this to feel like it's one big coaching business thing because that's a pretty icky energy too. So the
Yes.
beautiful thing I found was that I started to make things available through pay what you want. And this is something that feels so good to me. So I do monthly workshops. Now I get 120, 140 people to these workshops and it's pay what you want. And I give in those 2 days that I run per month, I give everything I know on a subject. I give my energy, and if people want to stay on longer, I'll answer their questions. I'll give them readings. I'll run them through some of the most effective processes. So if people are motivated, they don't have to. They can pay what they want to have the thing that they need. And to me, that feels good because I get my needs met. They get their needs met. Some people show up for free. I don't even care. If
That
people show
is
up for
so
free because that's where
powerful.
they're at, that's cool. And so when I do things like that, it's like, wow, I think I finally cracked the code on how to work in the healing space, serve a lot of people, and also not feel like there's this weird imbalance with money, either towards too greedy or towards, giving my services away and devaluing them.
Yes, yes. That sounds like you have cracked the code because that is it. It's the conversation that I have with my healer friends. I
Yeah,
think it's the conversation that we have. It's like, how can I, get this out here and help enough people, and also still get my needs met? Because I'm like
yeah.
you, I cannot physically go and work anybody's job. I have tried, I've done it for decades. And I got to the place where I burned out and I started getting sick. Every time I look, it was something. Frozen shoulder, stomach, long COVID, you name it. I
Mm,
started having things happen and I was like, what is going on? I thought, because I did this career for 32 years, I thought, well, I just need to change jobs, because maybe this is toxic and I need to go someplace else. But you know what? It was all toxic for me.
yeah,
And once I got to the place where I realized that it was all toxic for me, and then I needed to go through the disidentification of it. So to stop identifying as that and start identifying as this. And so that's been the process that I've been going through probably the last about 2 years now.
yeah.
So definitely that. And so that cracking that code is phenomenal. I think you should teach that
I
to
do.
healers.
I do. But there's a caveat to this. This only works for me. It might
Right,
work for you too if you're like me and we have a similar, dynamic in a certain area of life.
right,
And through doing astrology readings, you meet people from all places in the world and all walks of life. And sometimes people will just share the same dynamic with you, even though they might, have grown up on the streets of India, for instance.
right.
Just it's just in our nature. There's only a certain number of different configurations with things. But what you just spoke into, I feel, is so much more powerful when people go through this process of deconditioning and de-identifying with things.
Yes,
Because really the basis for it is, and the secret to being, prosperous and abundant and enjoying what you do and actually making your business as a healer feel so purposeful and also feel good to do and it never drains you is one thing. And that one thing is listen to yourself, listen to your body. If your body is telling you something doesn't feel right, do not continue doing that thing. We will, though. This is the problem because the mind thinks, well, I need to do this job to make money. And the body says, mm-mm, nope, no, no, ma'am, no, sir, I ain't doing this. I'm
mhm.
going to freeze the shoulder. I'm
Yeah,
going to give you COVID.
exactly. Exactly. The body speaks to us. And it's funny for me, it was like probably 20, what are we, 2020, 2010.
Mhm.
2010. The first thing I got was fibromyalgia, which when I first got it, I was like, this can't be, that's a made up disease. It didn't really make no sense. But when I started experiencing it, I was like, oh my God, this is horrible,
Oh my
That was the
God.
first thing. And so at that point, I said, okay, I need to. Matter of fact, that wasn't the first thing. The first thing was I started feeling in my 30s. And I went to the doctor because I would go to work and I would like puke right when I got to work. And then after, I finished reporting, I was a nurse, and I would get up and go to the bathroom, and then it would come out the other end. And it happened like this each and every single time that I went to this job for a period. And I kept
Mhm.
thinking, what is going on? First, of course, I want to do a cleanse and all these things. And I wasn't even as deep into that stuff at that point because I was raising kids and doing the thing. But I went to the doctor. You know what she said? She said, it's stress. She said, so my recommendation is quit that job.
Wow. It's a smart
And
doctor.
Right? And so she said, you can either stay there and it'll probably kill you. She said, or you can just, let that go. And so I let it go so fast, like right the next day, I called him. I said, listen, I'm not coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I didn't even think about that until we're talking right now. I was like, you know what? That was my first introduction to it's time for you to make a shift. But then, I was all deep in the church too. So that was a whole nother
yeah.
situation. But as you go forward with this, because this thing is, I'm sure, and I can feel that it is changing the world already. So as you go forward, what is your vision for where you want it to go?
That's a great question. I was very blessed because by the age of 21 or so, actually maybe even younger, maybe 19 or 20, I got a very clear vision. The only problem was it was a vision of about 50 years. It wasn't a quick one. And then I've had a number of events in my life that were very synchronistic. And one of them was showing me that this vision was real because this vision is something that hasn't been created yet. So I was doing a music retreat here in Canada on an island. It was like a very nice island. It was in 2007. So it was out there. It was sort of out in nature. I was sleeping in a tent doing this music retreat. But at the same place, they had a gathering of world leaders, of top scientists, of thought leaders, and of, government psychics. So they brought in government psychics to this conference, and they were trying to envision the most positive, sustainable future for humanity in the year 2050. And through this workshop or this, conference, they finally converged on one model that would work and meet the needs of everybody, the scientists, the government people, the thought leaders, and the psychics. Because obviously they all come from different backgrounds, so they're all
Right.
going to have a different bias. But by the end of it, they did have a convergence. And what they described was the exact vision that I had seen when I was 20 with in my own mind. So it told me this is something that real and where the future could head. What they saw was settlements of 500 to 1,000 people spread across the landscape in all parts of North America. The cities would still be there, but they wouldn't be as dense and not so much traffic jam, and they would be more regenerative. So we'd see more things growing in the cities. That's where the real technology hubs would be happening. But these places would be dome-like structures, these communities of people, and each one would have a specialization, but they'd be connected in a node to all these other places. Completely self-sufficient, completely zero waste as well. But the most important thing was that they were small enough that there would be an elevation of consciousness. So we'd be living regeneratively.
Yeah.
It's a completely new social model. Like if we went back to tribes, we wouldn't have the same hierarchies in society anymore,
Yes.
right? We'd all be people that would be on the same plane, but we'd all have our own specialization. So
Yes.
we'd be like unique agents that are held together by a social fabric.
Yes.
And that's what I see. And the only way to do that is when people have done their healing work, right? Because
Yes.
regardless of what politician's in power, every single politician that I know of has deep wounds within them,
Right.
right? And therefore, there is some light. And, it's hard to see in certain individuals that they have some light, but everybody has light
Yeah.
and they have a shadow. And
Yes.
often what happens is they get projected upon by the populace so much negativity that
Yeah.
they end up becoming the villain of their shadow, right? And, when you have this playing out in things like Congress and the Senate and all these different levels of government, and people are not talking about healing and they're not talking about transparency, then they become corrupt
Yeah.
by the system. And as a result of that, they seek their own interests above the collective interests. And a lot of the visions of higher needs and long-term vision, they fall away to the dust as it becomes sort of a, infighting and polarization and all these things. And that really is the thing that tears the fabric of society and culture apart. What
Sure.
we actually need is to find the space inside of ourselves where we move beyond blaming and complaining and we move into this felt sense awareness of what's needed, where are my skills, where are my values. So as we heal initially, and this is the work of the next decade or two, we heal and the stuff that's been hidden comes to the forefront because people are living with, the mass population of humanity still has their blinders on. It's getting
Yeah.
very uncomfortable for them right now. 2025 is going to be a year where probably they're going to see things they never imagined before. 2027, everyone's going to be talking about aliens, I bet.
Yes.
Like we're kind of at that point in the cycle. And so at some point it's going to be like, all right, fine, I give up with this facade of a society, this anonymous way of living where we're stacked in these apartment buildings, we don't know our neighbor, we're shoveling garbage into our mouth, we're just watching television, we're on a hamster wheel, earning an income to pay the rent, to go further into debt, to never get off of this cycle.
Yes.
I mean, tell me some of the communities that exist in the US. I see it everywhere here. It's like there's no vision. There's no hope,
Yeah.
right? And then what happens to the youth? It's heartbreaking, right? Because these kids come in with so much energy and aliveness and full of soul, and there's nothing for them to plug into, right? And it's because that whole model can't work.
Right.
Actually, need a different model.
Well, they're waking
And
up.
when we And well, yeah,
The
model where
kids.
people, yeah, they're waking up. The kids are going to move this model forward,
Yes.
and the people that are currently now in power will slowly be forced to move in that direction
Praise
because
God.
we, the
All right.
people, are doing our work. There might be 10 or 20% of us that are awake to this and saying, we're older, we're responsible for these kids.
Yeah.
And we're the ones who actually have the impact. It's not Trump, it's not Musk, it's not any of these people. It's
Right.
us. We're
Yes.
the ones who have the impact. We're the ones that control where the future goes. Let's
Yeah.
use that agency. Let's make it happen. And let's actually come together. Because look, we can heal so much. We can heal the racial division that's happened.
Yes.
And we can heal the, difference of beliefs that's
Yes.
going on, of
Oh,
class, like money, all this BS. Get
yes.
it out of there. And we
Yes.
could just like, how amazing it is just to see people like, you know, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like I've lived through a couple floods and fires
Right.
in the place to live. You watch everybody come together. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're the rich person on the hill,
Yes.
everybody's shoveling trenches,
Yeah.
everybody's getting bags, everybody's making sandwiches,
Yes.
everybody's making sure everyone's taken care of.
Yeah. And
Unfortunately,
why does it have to take that?
why does it have to take that? That's my exact
It
question.
was like,
Could we
yeah,
live like
we
this?
know we can do it because we've
Yeah.
done it and we've seen it. And I've been fortunate. I have not had to deal with any of that, but I watched it. Like I saw Katrina and I saw, some of the things that happened. I saw the crap that happened in North Carolina. I saw the different things. You know what I mean? And I saw how the people came together.
Hmm.
And I said, why does it have to take these type of tragedies for us to realize that we can come together?
Hmm.
And I always tell people, I say, I think about I don't know if you remember Rodney King, but I remember what he said. He said, why can't we just all get along?
Yeah.
After they beat the brakes off him, the police and all this crap. But he came to that realization before he left here. Why can't we all just get along? And so I say that all the time. I'm like, y'all, really, what is the problem here?
Yeah.
I said,
I
as
mean,
a nurse, we all bleed red blood. I've
yeah.
seen blood from every single type of person in the world,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I'm like, it all is red. I said, the other part is when you get blood from somebody, do you know what race they are or what culture they are or what religion they are? No.
Nope.
Just know that they are O positive or O negative or whatever your blood type is. That is what you know. I said, so what is the difference?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely. So if you took a handful of people from all different corners of the earth, from, the black community, the Asian community, the, white, all the people, and you put them on an island and you made them figure things out, it would be fine. It would be totally fine. So, right? Like they would eventually get to the point where they don't see any difference in ability or anything. They'd be seeing on that level of blood
yes,
that you're mentioning. Now, the thing that gets in there is that we exist in a program, and the
yes,
program is actually meant to divide and isolate us so that
yes.
it can come on and harvest energy out of us. And this is the thing that
Ooh,
in spirituality, people kind of talk about, and it's talked about maybe in a far-fetched conspiratorial way, but since the beginning of time, a lot of people recognize, hey, there's another force on this planet that isn't, all good, and that this force is actually vampiric, and it actually comes and it actually, manipulates people into giving a will their free will agency, and then it takes from them. You don't have to listen to it. I
no,
mean, nowadays, um, it's less likely. I mean, there is still people being forced into things, but there was a time where, people were, you know, slaves. In
Yes.
Egypt, even 400 years ago, 300 years ago, there was physical oppression. Now we live in a world where, you know what? If you can find a way out of the system, that's great, but nobody's holding you in it.
Yeah.
But you have to work really hard. There's all sorts of laws and stuff saying you can't live with your friends in this hippie commune over here, because there's a building code and all this kind of stuff. So we're gonna like prevent you from doing it in this way. But if you're clever about it, and this is the thing is people are getting clever about these things now and they're
Yes, they
figuring
are.
out ways. They're
I
like, you
love
know what?
it.
Screw it. I don't want to pay $4,000 a month in rent, food, and all this when I earn 3,000 and then go into debt $1,000 every month. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go live with my friends, have basically a music festival every single night of the week, and we'll all share the costs so that it becomes very low cost. I think inflation is one of those things that's eventually going to drive people to the point of saying, I just can't afford anything anymore. Why don't I band together with friends and family and people I love? And then they'll see on the back end of that, there's something great. So all the problems of the world right now have a silver lining in them
Yeah.
if we're willing to look at them from a new perspective.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. Because my children did that when they were younger. They're now in their 30s. But when they were in their like early 20s, they got
Mm.
together because they wanted, of course, everybody, wanted to move out and all these things. And
Yeah.
their parents, we were charging them. If they wanted to stay, they could stay, but they
Yeah.
owe something. You're not gonna stay here for free. So they all decided that they would, get out and get their own place, and they got it was probably about five or six of them in a two-bedroom part. But they got together and they did that,
They
and
did it. Yeah.
and it was something that was good for them. It helped all of them because some of them were in school, some of them had graduated, some of them were looking for jobs, some of them had gotten out of the military, different things. And so they got together and they did that. They lived, it was about five or six of them in a two-bedroom apartment, and they lived there and they had a good time. And of course, they did a lot of plant medicine and things like that. And but they did it, and I saw that because it was hard, and I know it was expensive out there, you know
Yeah.
and that's the thing I think that is going to get a lot of them through anyway,
Yeah.
because now they're all doing their thing and they're all doing good. But that was what they had, how they had to start. And I was grateful for it because at least for me, I felt that it was safe for them,
Yeah.
especially for like my daughter. I felt like it was safe because they were all together and I didn't have to worry about, her being alone and somebody trying to, do anything to her and all this stuff. So yeah, it was just a good thing. And I believe it's something that is coming back because it's necessary. It's just like you said. Here, I think you get a little tiny apartment, about 500 square feet for about $1,200 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
you're in Savannah, right?
oh no, no, I'm outside of Seattle.
Oh, okay, because I saw straight out of Savannah. So,
Yeah, because that's where I'm from.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool. So you're in my part of the world then. I'm
yeah,
up, I'm just north of you, really.
right.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
actually are planning to come up there just to visit because we hadn't, but we
Oh,
just haven't made our way yet. We did do
yeah.
Victoria, BC. Went up there and took the ferry and went there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm not far from Victoria. I'm about
Victoria,
an hour from there. So the
love
cool.
it. Love
Yeah.
Victoria. So nice. We plan to do it again. So good.
Oh,
It's
awesome.
good. The people were good. The even the traffic. You
Yeah, it's like the largest town in the world, pretty much. It's not a city.
is it? Because
Not really.
I'm telling
I
you,
know
it's
it.
beautiful.
It has the vibe of a town though, where people are a little more friendly and there's
They
not as
were
much
so
traffic and that kind of
friendly.
thing.
Oh my God. Like even the hotel, I told my husband, I said, it was amazing because typically when we travel, I take like a little spray bottle of cleaner so I can clean my tub out and stuff. And so I had forgot my little bottle. And so I went out to the girl at the cart and I said, hey, I said, can I just get some cleaner so I can clean this tub? I said, you don't really have to clean the room. We were only going to be there, I think 2 days or something. I don't care if they clean. I said, I just want to clean the tub. I said, because I want to take a bath. And she said, I can do it. And I just looked at her and I said, are you sure? Because I can do it, and she was like, no, it's my job. I can do it. She actually came in, cleaned the bathroom, gave us fresh towels and all that stuff. And I was so impressed because here in America, no, they would have gave me the cleaner.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've asked, I've done it before because I was like, can you just give me the cleaner? And he handed it to me so fast with a rag. And I was like, all right.
You're on your own.
But anyway, so let's move on to, I really just want to, I want you to talk a little bit about how you feel as we move into this new age. And you shared a little bit about it, but I kind of want you to go in the direction that you feel
Yeah.
like we are headed toward.
The year's shaping up, and right now, I'm very kind of tapped into future probabilities. So people call it timelines, but the future isn't set in stone. It's different probabilities that become more or less likely depending on certain conditions being met.
Yes.
And I knew 2025 was going to be a big year, like a 2020 type of energy year. Now, in
Yes.
2020, the energy went in a certain direction
Yes.
that catalyzed a lot that needed to come out. Now,
Yes.
the energy is very big this year, and it doesn't have to go negative, but it can if we're caught pouring outrage and anger and all this kind of stuff. And that's why I've been telling people it's like, guys, enough. We don't need to be more divided right now. We need to be doing exactly what you and I have been talking about for the last 40 minutes, is
Yes.
that getting on mission. And
Yes.
so everything I've been doing has been myself, my own mission, helping other people align with that. I've been doing what are called solar return readings for 2025. So this is the
Nice.
most important thing according to the cosmos for you this year of your life that you need to know. And when you do that and you understand that and you integrate it, it's sort of like you get a personal mission or instruction to keep you going down that tunnel and not veering off on the sides that we talked about.
Yes. Yes.
And that's the big thing I've been basically saying. And now we've got a little bit of a breather, but what I see happening here is I do see a lot of the darkness getting exposed and brought to the light.
Yes.
And the politics right now is a very, very hot topic for a lot of people. And I don't pick a side because I realize that both sides are completely, compromised and corrupted. But at the same time, God works through the people that are there. So,
Yes.
if you're doing your work, there could be a fly in the ointment of the most, corrupt politicians, and something will happen that will bring about a positive outcome.
Yes.
Nobody thought that we'd still all be breathing and talking and, not in some sort of, not wearing masks in 2025. People weren't even convinced there would be a 2025 at one point in time.
Yeah.
Yet
Yeah.
here we are, talking, smiling, laughing,
Yeah.
radiating joy. And it's going to keep going.
Yes.
And it's not going to get worse, despite what the movies say, despite what the people in the news say, despite what anybody says. It doesn't have to get worse. It can actually get a lot better.
Yes.
Big energy simply means it's big energy. You can shape that however you want. If you want it to get worse, you can easily do that. If you
Yeah.
want it to get better, you know, a- align here.
Yes.
Make
Yeah.
sure this is you're in integrity with yourself,
Yeah.
your own values, the people in your life, your sense of service. I mean, at the end of the day, integrity does mean taking care of oneself and self-healing, but at a certain point, it becomes about something much bigger than you.
Yeah.
And whether that is to your family in a small group of people, to an individual, some people are taking care of elderly parents, and
Yeah.
that's their mission and their dharma. Other people are here for the collective and they're sharing and they have a platform like myself. Other people are serving in their community, and this is the work that we're doing. And there's still a fewer amount of us because a lot of people are still learning and getting up to speed and sort of getting out of the program.
Yes.
But those that of us are holding it down, we're accelerating how fast the mass of humanity gets out of the program and gets onto their own program and their own joy and this new form of culture that we've been talking about because it's coming.
I'm, that is so exciting to me.
Yeah.
Um, I could actually listen to you all day because you're an amazing channeler. I hope you know that, but I
Thank you.
appreciate your wisdom. I
Mhm.
have one last question. We're going to land this plane. I asked everybody, all my guests, and I've only gotten the same answer twice. And so, if there's anything in the world that you could change, what would that be and why?
Ooh, anything that I could change in the world. Wow.
Yeah.
I think it really just comes down to um, if I can help one person take that 16-inch journey from their head to their heart and stay there, That would mean the world to me. Just even one person. Anything beyond one person is a bonus. Yeah.
because that's the journey.
Yeah. The
And
longest journey, it's only 16 inches. It's
it
from
is.
here to here.
It's like, oh my God, how do I do that? How do I do that? I had a friend that used to say that all the time. She said, well, I just dropped down in my heart. I said, you do? Well, how do you do that?
Mm.
Oh, right. Well, explain to the people where is the best place to connect with you. And also, if you have anything that you are promoting or anything like that, you can share it. And I just want to let the people know that his details are going to be in the show notes, so you can click all the links and all that stuff, especially his free gift.
Yeah. So that's the main thing, that free gift. Get your reading, your collective wound reading. It's shifted everything it's shifted something for everyone who's got it. Some people have gotten tremendous benefit, some people have gotten a moderate amount of benefit, but everybody's gotten something out of it, and it's completely free, and it's free 3 days. You get a reading right up front from a very detailed astrology system. So go reveal and heal your core wound right now with that. That's the best thing. The second thing you want to do is, if you're interested in learning more, I would definitely go to my YouTube channel, which is Octave Leap on YouTube, OCTAVE space LEAP. Go check out my YouTube channel. Start watching some of the more recent videos from the last 6 months, because they're all touching on many of the things I'm saying. And I put a lot of time and scripting into them, so they come out in a very organized way. But a lot of the time, people will watch one video and then they'll start going through the whole channel, and then they'll have some big epiphany, and I'll hear from them and how amazing it was. So YouTube is where people are getting the most value out of my work, 100%.
Awesome, awesome. I've enjoyed this. In my Abraham Hicks voice, I've enjoyed this interaction immensely.
As have I, Tammy. It's a real pleasure. And
It has
thank you for
been,
this. Thank you for the divine alignment in this conversation.
yeah,
And yeah, I really wish you the best. And
same,
your listeners too.
same. And I appreciate you for coming. I appreciate your time. And it was amazing, y'all, because I found him on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I saw one of his posts and I was like, huh. Hmm. And then I responded, and then he responded back, and I was like, you know what? I think I would like to have him to come on the show. Says because I really need him on my virtual couch.
Mm,
So here you are, and I'm just
here I
so
am.
appreciative, so appreciative.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, so we are
Okay.
to pop off of here, and I thank you so much. I appreciate you for watching, for listening. However, you're getting this, I appreciate and thank you for joining me, David.
Take care.